So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's event. Today's event is about Data Science Career Mentorship Program uh, organized by Women Who Code Data Science. Here with me, I have Nishka Srivastava, who will be hosting today's session with our amazing panel of speakers. We have Josh Smith, who is a technical recruiter in Facebook/Meta. And we also have Jacqueline Paiva, who will be joining us shortly. She's also senior software engineer in Lendis. So let me just give you an overview first about what is this career mentorship program is and what is the aim of it. So this career mentorship program 2022 is organized by Women Who Code Data Science, and it's a free mentorship program aimed for helping our community members succeed in job hunting, cracking technical interviews, and learn about different career options available to them in the fields of data science and AI. Our target audience are aspiring women trying to get started in their career and junior and mid-level professionals looking for taking up a senior position or career transition. So it was a 4-part series. The first session was about knowing different roles. In that session, we had this session last week. In that session, we talked about different roles that exist in the data science and AI/ML industry, and what's the difference between them, what's the difference in preparation that's needed for each of these roles. Today's session, we will focus about resume and LinkedIn do's and don'ts. That means while you are writing your resume or you are reaching out through cold email, through LinkedIn, what are the do's and don'ts that you need to be mindful of? So without any further ado, let's get started. Over to you, Nishka.
Thank you, Zarreen, for an amazing introduction for about the event. Let me start by introducing myself. So I'm Nishka. I'm working as a research engineer here in London. The topic, as Zarreen said, we would be discussing about tips and tricks of efficient CV writing and how to use LinkedIn the right way. Something I personally thought would be very useful because I know how hard and stressful the interview process is, and harder is to land the first interview call. Let's start. Let's take some expert advice here on these topics, and at the end I can share my experience as well, tips that helped me in landing my opportunity as a fresher in the field of machine learning. So the first speaker for the day is Jacqueline, who would be talking about how to use LinkedIn the right way. Hey, Jacqueline, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thank you for the invite today. I'm glad to be here. Hope I can help somehow with my experience.
Sure. Great. So if you could start by introducing yourself.
Sure. Currently, I'm working in Berlin in a startup named Lendis. My position is Senior Product Manager. I'm here since January. Before that, I worked in Brazil for 11 years, mainly in a bank, a Brazilian bank. Traditional structure. I worked in many areas there, mainly digital strategy, product management, also leading tribes. So now a new movement for abroad, working in a new country and facing some challenges also.
Great. Awesome. So we have got a few topics we thought maybe you can shed some light on. So the first topic would be importance of adding recommendation and endorsement on your LinkedIn profile, like how important it is.
Well, as I was also a recruiter, right? I worked as a people manager. I hired many people, and I think that sometimes we don't show by areas just or our profile who we are, right? It's difficult to see this soft skills, abilities, things that sometimes the recommendations help a lot. So I used to also read those before contacting people, selecting a profile. And I see that keeping this page updated with recommendations, with people that worked with you asking for, helps a lot to explain who you are, how you collaborate with your friends, your colleagues from work. So I use it a lot, and keeping it very updated with my certifications, what I have as results in each area that I worked on. So LinkedIn is a powerful tool, not just for applying for jobs, right? but keeping networking, connections, talking with people from your area. This is a very important too.
Right. And if you can talk about the endorsements. So I've seen a lot of time people do not have any endorsements on their LinkedIn profile. So if you can explain what is endorsement and why is it necessary?
Sure. I think that sometimes we use a lot just LinkedIn, thinking on showing yourself, right? So you are just talking about your areas, how you work it, and I feel that when you ask for recommendation or a person that can talk about you, you also get this feedback, right? So considering what your results, what it was, and once I reach these profiles, I like to see what is written there. So I see a lot of value. I do both movements, right? I like to write and I also like to receive. So maybe once you ask for a recommendation, you also can give for the other person. Keeps this two ways, right, in the relationship. So it's very useful.
Right. So if you have any tips, tips you can you have in applying for jobs, like adding that alert button or alert notification thing, or how applying early increases slightly the chance of getting noticed. So if you can share some tips about that.
Mm-hmm. Something that I know it's very real time. Once you have a plan to apply for an area, specific country or city, your location is a powerful tool, like updating the location for that city. Once I arrived in Berlin and I updated my profile, I started receiving positions, recruiters looking for the product managers in Berlin. So this is something very useful. Also using some keywords and updating the main profile there, your bio, considering what you're doing, the areas, activities that usually that position requires. So read what the company you aim to work with, what they are asking, what are the skills, abilities, activities. Are you connected to this somehow? Can you write in a way that they find your skills, they find your abilities in this description? And results, right? Sometimes we just write, oh, I'm a senior product manager at this area, at this company, but what you did there, what was your responsibility, your challenges, the results? Why is important to choose you, right? In so many people in the market, why you differ from the others? This is something that usually we don't care a lot, right? We just update as a common CV, but you can use some fields, some tools to improve the way you are reached by recruiters and how your page fits the position you're looking.
Right. Awesome. So if you can shed some light on why connection and networking is so important.
Sure. One powerful tool that I've been using also connected with LinkedIn, right, is Mentoring Club. I'm using a lot this tool also. There you can be a mentor or a mentee, considering what you're looking. But you connect with many people from any areas, from many countries, and you start sharing, right, your challenges, what you are looking for, changing experience. This is very powerful because today, for example, I have many people in mind that I already mentored or I connected there. And if I have a position, for example, in my company, I remember them. I know they want to do this movement. So just an example, right? Also by LinkedIn, once you have a company in mind, connect with people there, with other colleagues that you can ask for how the company is. Can you tell me a bit about your the way you collaborate, not just, oh, do you have positions, do you have opportunities, but more creating relationship, creating a nice environment. So you have connections that can help you somehow in the future also to map opportunities.
Wow, great. So, if you can share your experience on how LinkedIn helped you in getting your job in Berlin.
Sure. I think the main point was updating my profile. I had in the past a profile very focused on the internal areas from the bank that I worked at in the past. So names that the market wasn't looking like, the positions, they changed. My desire was another area. So I adapted my page considering the market, how the market was looking for my abilities,
Right.
these keywords, and then I started being reached. I found my position in a Slack channel for product in Brazil, Mulheres de Produto, and they shared there the position, but I sent my profile. So I didn't send my CV, I sent my LinkedIn, and the page was a match with the position. So they asked me to apply in their website and then started the connection. So I feel that the page helped a lot in this first okay to be in the process.
Right, great. Thank you so much for us talking about those topics, and I really appreciate sharing all those experience with us. Zarreen, if we can have some questions from the audience, that would be great.
Yes, sure. Thanks so much, Jacqueline, for giving so much insights on making networking, getting mentors, all these things. So we have already shared the mentoring club link that you wanted to share with the attendees. So this is in the chat. So anyone wondering the club that she mentioned, so it's in the chat. Please take a look. And we have some questions. So the first question is, what does it mean by networking really? Like just talking to people or asking for a job lead?
From the names, creation of a net, right? Once you, sometimes you're very focused on your company, your friends. You don't have a large net that you can be with different markets, creating benchmarks for your own area. You don't need just to map thinking on jobs, right? On positions. But sometimes you are working with a topic and you need some reference, talking with other people about that topic, having ideas, insights. So I also use networking, right? Creating new connections for this kind of opportunity, benchmarks, reference, insights. You also can do this for transitions in the market. So I want to change from a company to another or from an area to another. So I want to know what are the hard skills, the soft skills that are in the skill metrics of that area so I can improve it. And also I use a lot mentoring club for this kind of changing experience. And how can I do this movement for another country? How is it working in Berlin? How was in São Paulo? How is in other countries? So this is something we don't read, right, in the internet or in books. Talking with people is the most valuable way, in my opinion.
Awesome. Do we have any more questions?
Maybe we can take one more question.
Yeah.
So there's a question also from another Jacqueline. So she asked how important it is to have projects portfolio when getting hired for entry level, and what kind of projects stand out.
Mm-hmm. I understand that once you are in an entry level, it's difficult to show results, right, on work properly, maybe by a company. Sometimes you are an intern, you're starting. So my suggestion would be explaining, at least in the studies on your university, college, what you have, how you are recognized by other people, what you studied. You don't need sometimes you don't have yet, right, a consistent result in a company. But I worked mentioning a lot my conclusion project of college, what I worked with, what I studied. This in the beginning was very, very useful, and which activities I was involved. So maybe it's a starting point, right? And then once you have this first portfolio, first results, you can start mentioning. A good idea, sometimes when you are in an entry level, an intern, you don't care a lot about this portfolio, right? You start doing activities and you start something, right, for first job. If you already start this way, thinking that in the future this will be helpful, write it down. What I did in the last weeks, what I did in the last months, in 6 months. So you start creating this portfolio, right, since the beginning. In the future, in 12 years, in 11 years, it will be very, very, very useful to have mapped.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I think we can move on to the next segment for now, and we will take more questions at the end if
Great.
time permits.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for spending some time, and I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you for you too.
Sure. Let's go to our next speaker. So we have Josh, who would be discussing about how to write an efficient CV. Hey, Josh, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you again for the invitation.
We are so happy to have you here. So if you can explain, if you can introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, so my name is Josh. I'm a technical recruiter at Meta or Facebook. I've been in the technical recruiting space since, I think, 2017, working for different startups as well as big tech companies.
Wow, so we have a lot of experience here. Awesome. So we have gathered a few topics we thought you might help us with. So if you can explain, what is a STAR framework?
Yeah, so you can Google STAR or STAR framework and you'll find some really great resources. But typically it's a really good way to answer most interview questions that aren't really sort of about technical nitty-gritty topics. So probably not the best way to answer a how would you use Python to solve this problem type question. But certainly for behavioral questions or how would you go about solving this problem, they're a really good framework. So STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. The example I often give to candidates that I'm prepping for our interview process is that the interviewer often wants to find out whether you as a candidate have a certain behavior. So this behavior might be something like a growth mindset, that when you have challenging topics or challenging problems, you can use that to grow and leverage it in that way. So an example I might get asked in a recruiting interview from an interviewer is, can you tell me about a time where a hiring manager gave you a very difficult position to hire for? And I may then say, the situation was I had this manager who wanted to make a hire. The task was we had to hire a Python and R expert who also was an expert in C++ within the next month. The action I took was to sit the hiring manager down and say, look at the market, look at the data points. There's not that many people on the market that fit that profile. It's incredibly difficult to find them and hire them in 30 days. And the result was we met a compromise. We hired someone in 2 months who had all of the criteria except C++. So it very kind of nicely and ties everything into a bow of how you solve the problem in a clear-cut format.
Awesome. Wow. Great. So how, from your experience, if you could talk about some common mistakes that you have noticed on CVs?
Yeah. So there's the obvious ones like spelling mistakes and things like that. And I would always recommend send your CV after you've drafted it to a couple of friends. They're all going to have different comments about how you're phrasing things in terms of tenses, where things might seem a little braggy or where you're maybe not giving yourself enough credit, or things like spelling mistakes. But big ones that I notice are using words like we instead of I. And so what I would say is take credit for the things that you've built and the projects that you've contributed on. Employers really want team players, but your resume, your CV is about you, and it's really about highlighting your accomplishments and the projects that you've worked on and the things you've achieved. So really make sure that you emphasize what you've done. The second thing is really keep it simple. So I've seen academic CVs from PhD candidates that are 15, 20 pages long of academic papers, and they're incredibly impressive, but that's a lot of content for someone who's not technical to digest. And so I would say 5 or 6 bullet points per position, and intrigue me, make me interested, make me want to ask you questions and to get you on the phone and take that first step. If you can tell me about a really interesting project that you've contributed to, I'm going to want to ask more questions.
Awesome. Wow. That's a great piece of advice. So how to surpass AI bot on a company job portals?
Yeah, so a few big companies do have these. And the most common way they're going to catch you out is with preliminary questions. So you'll often see, do you have 2 years experience building neural networks in an automotive environment, something like that, and you're going to be able to tick yes or no. Chances are you might have 1 year of building neural networks in that sort of space, and if you were honest, you click no. If you click no, you're automatically rejected and your profile is pushed down, and the recruiters won't see it. So if you are halfway there or 2/3 of the way there, I would say click that box. If you are based in France and the role asks, are you based in the United Kingdom and you're looking to relocate, click yes. You know, your plan is to relocate. The visa process, most companies are geared to get you a visa. Click yes on many of those, and you'll kind of be able to circumnavigate those sort of questions that automatically eliminate you.
Right. Wow. Awesome. So next question is there a set format to follow while making your resume?
No and yes. So I would say in terms of size of resume, CV, if you have less than 5 years experience, 1 page should be enough, especially if you're kind of bullet pointing your experience. If you have more than 5 years, 2 pages is fine. But typically that's the cutoff. So no more than sort of 2 pages, unless it's a certain exception or you want to add an appendix with links to your portfolio or additional things you want to include. If you've just graduated or you're at a boot camp or any other kind of area like that, prioritize your education if you don't have industry experience, and really focus on the projects you've built and highlight those. And don't be afraid to dive into the tech there as well. The other thing is, if you do have industry experience, always put that first. That's going to be the most impactful thing to any recruiter or hiring manager.
Wow, awesome. So the last question is how to write a strong CV without any experience in specific role as a student.
Yeah, I think Jacqueline made a really good point with portfolios and with projects that you've worked on. And I can't say enough, highlight those. Really, you know, say if you've worked on a really difficult Python project and that's going to be heavily related to the work you'd be doing into the position that you're applying for, make sure people can see that and access it quite quickly. I would also say, you know, treat learning as a full-time job in a way. When you present it on your CV, it's really important to talk about what you're learning, how you're learning it, how much time you've committed into it, and the skills that you're picking up. And the last thing is if you have projects that have some level of commercial viability, so you're working on something that's really interesting. Maybe it's a small AI project that comes up with copywriting ideas for articles. Try and turn it into a business and present that as experience. Employers value those who are entrepreneurial and go out and get things themselves. And if someone can turn a small project they did whilst learning, you know, data science related stuff or even coding related stuff into some kind of a business, that is extremely attractive to employers. It shows that you have a lot of drive and a lot of will.
Right. Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much for answering all this question. I really appreciate sharing all this experience you have. Zarreen, if you can help me with the questions. I can see we have a lot of them.
Sure. Thanks so much, Josh. It has been super insightful. Really, really appreciate you taking the time and share these things with us. So we have few questions. One of them are basically, I think you kind of touched on that, Josh. But I think the question is more like, if I don't have the ML experience specifically for that area. So as example, if I'm more well-versed in computer vision, but the job is more tuned towards NLP, should I still apply? Or from a recruiter's point of view, will you still look at the resume, or there's no chance?
So I would say, especially at the junior level, you're fighting an uphill battle. You're going to have to just go volume over everything else. When you've specialized in a certain area, maybe you're an NLP expert, as you mentioned, you can be really specific with the applications you make, the recruiters that you reach out to. But early on, you're really just going to have to set a really wide net. And it's difficult because you are going to get a lot of rejection. You are going to get places that really want an expert in a certain area. But I would say, cast your net as wide as possible.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So the next question is, so what tips and advice do you have for career changers or people who are trying to transition from another career to AI careers?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, there's so many other skills that are important beyond how well you can build, machine learning models or research in that area. Soft skills are super important. Jacqueline may be able to attest to this as a product manager as well, but those people skills and ability to communicate and other skills you're going to pick up outside of the tech industry are super difficult to find sometimes in tech. And so really lean on those transferable skills, and also whatever you're learning most recently to aid that career change, whether it's a boot camp, whether it's university, whatever it might be, and highlight all of those things, because they're really going to set you apart from potentially a graduate, a fresher just coming out of university, and give them another option.
Sounds great. Thanks so much. Another question we have is, should we tailor the resume according to the job description? Does it help?
This is a mixed bag. So you're going to invest a lot of time in editing your resume for every application. And as I mentioned, really you should be aiming for volume. And so what you could do instead is maybe you have an NLP focused resume, you have an ML focused one that's quite generalist, and you have one focused on another area. And they're all then applicable that you can send them quite easily. Similar with cover letters, I would write one single cover letter where you can edit the company name, and that's it. Don't sit there investing time into these companies that may look for 30 seconds and then say no. Automate everything and make your life as simple as possible.
Thanks so much. So we will take one last question for Josh. So Michelle asks, so I have recently learned that people no longer include an objective on their resume. Is this true? So I think the objective or summary of the work.
So, I mean, typically not so much a summary, but normally like a 1 or 2 lines that sort of say, here's what I do, and here's maybe some additional things I can do. So for me, for example, I know my sort of summary line at the top is 2 lines and says I'm a technical recruiter who recruits in these spaces. However, I've also worked on people operations, employee retention, these sort of areas as well as sort of wider kind of business and operations. So, that's where as well for careers changes, freshers, you can leverage those soft skills in that second paragraph outside of that first sentence where you sort of outline your primary kind of objective. But it doesn't have to be kind of long-winded, more than 3 or 4 lines, anything like that.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So we still have 10 minutes. So Nishka, if you would like to also share some personal experience of your job hunting. I know you have been involved in a lot of job hunting these days. So I'm sure you have some interesting insights to share from your own experience. And maybe Josh and Jacqueline, whenever you feel like to jump in or add something, please feel free to do so. So over to you, Nishka.
Yeah, sure. So I've recently got a job role as a research engineer, and before that I was a student hunting for job. Trust me, it is so stressful and a depressing phase, because I think I was seeing on LinkedIn, every time you see on LinkedIn, you see that someone is like, hey, I got a job at Meta, I got a job at Google, I got a job at here, Twitter, and you feel very demotivating that you are not able to do it. And the thing is that everyone is showing that good side of them where they did, but they have not explained the struggles that goes behind it, and the amount of what they had to sacrifice. Maybe they were not going out, they were just sitting at home and studying for it. So we can't compare ourselves and our achievements with someone. That is something which I feel is out there so many times, which just demotivates you. So don't compare yourself that someone is getting a job and why can't I. So that was something, every time I got, like, I used to wake up and I used to see like 15 rejections a day. And it's just a part of life. You see that, okay, this is something that I might be doing wrong, and try to figure things out. So I used mentoring club at my time to try to ask for help. And sometimes the mentoring club the mentors doesn't help you that much, but the thing that they say that I'm here for you kind of just boosts your confidence, boosts your motivations. So I think just talk to someone if you're feeling upset, you're feeling that you are not able to do it. Don't dishearten yourself by comparing yourself with someone. That is something very important. And in respect with LinkedIn application, what I personally did was I noticed that, all the big companies, big techs are very much busy. They have so many applications, and I'm pretty sure they're not going to see my application if I just randomly try to upload it. So what I did was I noticed if I tried to make a connection with someone who's working there, did help me in landing a first call. At least I know that they're not going 10 out of 10 people, only one would respond to me. But it does help you in if you just feel free to just drop an email that, hey, I am a student, or I am doing this thing currently, and I'm interested in the company and a role that, you could be very specific if you want to. So if you can say, like, I'm interested in machine learning in your company, and, as Meta is, Meta has the application Instagram is something that I really like, I'm interested in. And, why do you really like that company? You need to explain this, because everyone would be like, yeah, I like Google, I like Meta, I like, Twitter, Snapchat. But you need to explain why, some kind of personalization, that what is something that attracts you about the company. Could be the work culture, could be, the projects that are working on, anything. So if you can explain that in a line or two and just drop your CV, and we'll be surprised that at least one recruiter or a hiring manager do respond to you. Or in my case, there were a time that one recruiter just texted me that, hey, you have some typos, just check on that and I'll send your resume forward. So it does help if you just go out and ask for an email, like just drop an email, because there is no harm in dropping an email or a cold mail, that they're not going to fire you, or they're not going to scold you. So there's not a problem if you do not just send them an email or an email. But yeah, if you won't do it, you will not know if you can land up an internship or a job. So that was my piece of advice. And one thing as well, if you apply early on to your LinkedIn post, so if someone has sent you a post, someone has actually sent a LinkedIn post, is job post is there, and you apply very quickly, so let's say only 5 to 10 people have applied, there could be slight higher chances, especially for startup, that you might get the first call, because that not a lot of people have applied, and the recruiters have time to go through the resumes. So I've noticed that, so every time I apply quickly, within, like, if there's not a lot of applicants who have applied, I always got a call. So yeah, but the process was very hectic, stressful, lots of rejection at the end state. That is most disheartening. But at the end of the day, when you talk to your family members, and talk to any of your friends that, I'm not getting a job, and they're just saying that I'm here for you, it's fine, the good thing might come up. Don't feel you can't get it, but I think just don't give up. Don't compare yourself, and just keep on applying. Believe in yourself that you can do it. Maybe not today you'll get a job, maybe not tomorrow, not after a month, but after 2 months you might have something. It's not that you can't do it. So yeah.
Also, if I can add, I
Yep.
totally agree. And I just would include, don't give up, right? We will receive many no's, but ask for feedback. You
Yeah.
may have some insights, what's not working properly, right? Where you can exercise more, what you should study, which skills you didn't show properly for that position. And these feedback talks, they are very useful. I used this a lot. I received many no's before doing my movement. So it was very useful. I started studying. I mapped other positions, not exactly on that companies. I trusted the small ones, so I was applying for big companies, big names, and I didn't try other ones smaller. Sometimes can be easier, not so many inscriptions, So try, exercise a lot these interviews, and don't give up. You receive many no's in the beginning.
Amazing. Josh, do you like to add some closing thoughts on that? Like how the applicants can keep themselves motivated, because it's a very competitive field when you are getting a lot of rejections. So do you have any tips to keep them motivated during that phase?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Nishka and Jacqueline both made really good points, which is you're going to face a lot of rejection throughout the way. And the feedback that you get, leverage that as much as possible, turn that into a positive and where you can improve. And look, every single job that we post, say at Meta, for example, we receive thousands of applicants. Sometimes we may hire 10, sometimes we may hire 1 from that. And so, don't be disheartened if you're not the one selected. Keep going, stay persistent, and remember as well, it's a volume game. When you're getting those first kind of roles, and even when you're sort of going from that sort of mid-level to that senior position as well, it's going to be really, really, challenging. You're going to have to sort of go out and find as many relevant positions as possible, have as many conversations as possible. And treat all of those opportunities, all those conversations you have with interviewers, hiring managers, treat that as networking as well. You can speak to those people on LinkedIn afterwards and ask for feedback. Did they know anyone else that might be hiring? Can they put you in touch? Leverage all of that as opportunity.
Something I actually noticed that during my entire phase, I was always told that because you're just starting out, you don't have a lot of experience. I just had 3 to 4 internship experience. I was told that you don't have the expertise of, machine learning and deep learning is very expertise profile. So you might not have the experience, you might not get the role. And I've been told by so many recruiters, so many hiring managers that you might not. And here I am, I have a role of a computer vision engineer. I do something that I really like. So believe in yourself that you can do it, even if people say that you can't. Just don't give up your hope. And as I think, I'm not sure, Josh or Jacqueline, who mentioned this, but keep your options open. So if you're interested in machine learning, don't say, I just want to focus on machine learning. If you don't have that experience, don't be fixated to that one role. Be open to data science, be open to even data engineering roles, because they are just an experience. You can do projects, you can highlight how much you wanted to learn, how eager you are to learn, and maybe there are positions internally in your company that you can do as well. So it's not that, if someone says that you can't do it, just brush it off and focus on what you believe. That's it.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing session. We are almost at the end of the time. Just wanted to remind you that the recording of our previous session will be available in Women Who Code YouTube channel very soon. So please be on the lookout. And today's session is also been recorded and it will be uploaded in YouTube very soon. So I think that was the end of this session. I hope you learned something new from our amazing panel of speakers, Jacqueline and Josh, from their different point of views. We also had Nishka, who shared very personal experiences from a candidate point of view. So we tried to incorporate all different, from hiring managers' point of view, from technical recruiter, and from candidates' point of view. So if you would like to continue the discussion, maybe feel free to connect with Jacqueline and Josh if that's okay with you guys. Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. So feel free to reach out to them, and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much. And I'd like to conclude finally with a warm thanks to Jacqueline and Josh to take out time from their super busy schedule. They're always busy with all this work. Still, they took out the time to do this for us. We really, really appreciate your time. And thanks, Nishka, for being a phenomenal host. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Have a good day. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.